Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePaoli, and today on the show, I have my friend Preston here with me. Hello, Preston.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going?
Pretty good. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast. First time ever, not even a trivia time guest in the past.
I know. I'm super excited.
But long-time listener. You've
Yes.
listened for a long time, so.
At least three
So
seasons now, yeah.
So we did experience The Void, Star Wars, Secrets of the Empire, which is currently at Downtown Disney at the Disneyland Resort, also at the Glendale Galleria. Did you know this, Preston?
I didn't know this, but I looked it up when we were planning to shoot this, and I was so surprised. I thought it was only at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. I knew it was at London for like 12 weeks, but I didn't know it was there.
Yeah, and also Las Vegas at the Palazzo, which surprised me because I just came from Las Vegas and was in the Palazzo, saw a show in the Palazzo, and I don't think... Oh, you know what? I do remember seeing it now that I mention it, because I remember pointing it out to my mom. Oh, I did that, and my brother had just done it in Disney Springs. So yeah, basically Downtown Disney at Disneyland, Glendale Galleria in Glendale, California, Las Vegas at the Palazzo, Disney Springs at Walt Disney World, a limited run at Stratford City, London, and everything can be found out at thevoid.com. But it's basically a 21st century virtual reality experience, I guess is what I would call it. And I'm just curious, before we get into the specifics of this experience, are you a virtual reality fan? Have you done stuff like this before?
This was really the first time that I've done anything like this. Like, I've tried on like a VR headset before, but I've never like gone to a place that specialized in it and actually did like an experience with it. So this is really my first time doing anything like it.
Have you ever done any of the marketing promotional materials with virtual reality? I remember Oculus Rift did like something for, I think it was Interstellar, and I remember Jurassic World did something to market their film.
No, I'd never done any of those. So this was like really my first ever time doing something. Like,
very cool.
Yeah.
And are you a gamer at all? I am not at all.
Not really. Like, I have an Xbox and I play occasionally, but I would not consider myself a gamer now. Okay.
When it comes to virtual reality, it's interesting because one of the things I was most interested in this experience for was like, I've never really been into VR because I like do it for 5 or 10 minutes and then be done. I've done like the home versions that people have on their video games. I've done the marketing materials, which usually are only a few minutes long. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm done. So I was kind of curious as to whether or not this would sustain my interest for the entire length of the experience, and it certainly did, and we'll get into that. But I also wanted to ask you, where are you as far as the Star Wars fandom level is concerned?
I'm not on the very end, but I'm not at the other end. Like, I'm somewhere in the middle. So I go to the movies. I like the movies, but I definitely would consider myself more of a Marvel guy than a Star Wars guy.
Oh, them fighting words. Well, okay, so we're both pretty much in the same field. We don't have tons of experience with VR. We don't particularly love VR, and we're both average Star Wars fans. So having said that, what did you think of The Void?
Oh my gosh, I thought it was incredible. Like, the entire experience from beginning to end was like insane. It's amazing how advanced the technology is, and all of it. It just is incredible.
Yeah, I would agree. It's about $30 for a 30-minute experience. The gameplay is actually more like 15 or 20 minutes, maybe.
Probably.
But I definitely didn't feel ripped off.
I thought it was worth the money. Like,
when you think of it, $1 a minute is an expensive form of entertainment. But I don't know. I definitely didn't feel ripped off by it. I feel like Downtown Disney and Disney Springs is the perfect place for it. And I think I've talked about this before, but I kind of see that being the direction that those shopping areas are going in. They're going to have places to eat. They're going to have basically entertainment experiences that you cannot put in a theme park because it just could not accommodate that amount of crowds. And it's going to be shops. And the more of these like experiences, we're seeing it a little bit at Downtown Disney. Obviously, we got The Void. I kind of even put what's the new restaurant with the bowling called?
Splitsville.
Yeah, I even put Splitsville in that. I mean, you're paying to bowl, so it's a form of entertainment. You've got an AMC movie theater. So I think we're going to keep seeing more and more of this, and I think that that's fantastic because I love these types of experiences. Disney, I'd be all for a year-round haunted house. I mean, just saying. What could we theme a haunted house to at Downtown Disney?
Gosh, I don't know.
We could just go Disney villains and make it really twisted.
That would be cool.
But in any case, that's not going to happen. We know that. So we'll just have to deal with the void. But I do want to read a description of the void that is on their website, just because it's kind of an interesting description, and I'm curious if you feel like this is a fair description of the experience. It says, people that have come to the void don't describe something they saw or a game that they've played. They describe journeys and memories from adventures they've had in new places. This is made possible by our hyper-reality experiences where people interact with elements that appear to be digital in a physical way. They physically walk through new worlds. They touch and interact with digital objects. This creates moments where participants have to remind themselves that what they are doing isn't real. So I don't know, do you think that's a fair description of what we experienced?
I would say yes. I definitely wouldn't consider it a game or anything like that because it's just a step above that. It feels like you're in the game. So I'd say.
But you just called it a game. You just said we're in the game. So I think it kind of is a game, right? There's an ultimate goal that we have to get a weapon and, kill people. And so I do think it's a bit of a game. As far as this, like, forgetting that you're in a digital world, what's the exact word? They said, what they're doing isn't real. I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I think it's a bit of an exaggeration to say
that's a little bit of hyperbole, but yeah.
Yeah. But still, nonetheless, a really, really fun experience. Now, there is a storyline behind this. And basically, the story is there's 4 rebels disguised as stormtroopers. That's us, the players. And we get a message from Captain Andor that we need to take his place in the mission to Mustafar to steal a powerful weapon from the Empire. And yeah, it's basically we get to go to different areas, including the spaceship as well as on the ground. And we're even flying at certain points on platforms. And it's crazy. But why don't we start at the very, very beginning, and after we basically check in, we get wristbands, and we're each given our own QR code, and this is how they kind of keep track of us and hook us up to the different machinery and stuff that we need to use throughout the experience. But do you remember that first room where basically they're preparing us for our mission? With
the big projector screen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I vaguely remember it. I just remember it was kind of like they were briefing us on what we have to do and kind of like the backstory of the mission.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Whenever there's experiences like these, I find a lot in the haunt industry this to be the case because, you go into a haunted house and there are creative people, extremely creative people working on these attractions. And so it all starts with story, and that's like a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. But, and I think this is a semi-fair comparison to a haunted house in the respect that there is just so much going on that it's a little bit difficult to follow and or even care about the story. You get the general gist of what's happening. Like, if you're in a haunted house, you're like, okay, I'm in a sanitarium right now. Like, you get the general idea. But you don't necessarily know 100% what you're going, exactly what the story is. And, this pre-video is kind of trying to set up the story for you, but I don't know, there's just a lot of details that I find myself missing at certain points. How do you feel about that?
For sure. There's so many like extra things that I completely missed, and especially when we're actually doing the experience after the beginning. There were points when we were just in it and I'm like, oh, we're going this way now, or oh, we're going here, and oh gosh, we're shooting this guy. So yeah, it just is a little hard to follow, but I don't think it like ruins the experience in any way.
No, not at all. I'm one of those people that I'll be playing a video game, which is a very, very, very rare thing for me, but I'll be like, am I shooting the right person? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah. That happened with me during the void too. There was like, oh, I don't really know who's on my team or who's against me.
Exactly. So we enter that briefing room, we meet Captain Andor, and he briefs the players that he'd gained an Imperial transport and that there was a weapon of great power held by the Empire on a base on Mustafar. He cannot join the players for this mission because his position was compromised. And then from there, the players enter an Imperial transport joined by a pilot and K2SO, which is a droid, of course. Now, at this point, we had put on essentially backpacks and helmets. And so we should say we went with a third person. It ended up being just the two of us because virtual reality, some people don't respond to it well. Some people, it makes them really nauseous. In the case of my other friend, it made him very claustrophobic, which I thought was a little strange because I didn't get that feeling at all. And I do sometimes get claustrophobic, but it's an open mask. Like it's a full on helmet, but it covers your eyes. So your like mouth and nose are fully open. But there's a backpack that you essentially put on.
It's pretty heavy too. It's like a good weight, yeah.
Yeah, so what I would say is if you're going to do this experience, make sure you're not wearing a ton of layers. And if you do, take them off because they do provide lockers for free that you can put your stuff in. And that's what I did. My other buddy didn't do that, freaked out, ended up leaving the experience, ended up going back later, taking his jacket off, and he was fine. So just know that you're going to be carrying around a heavy backpack that is essentially a computer on your back. And that's just part of the experience because you'll feel like vibrations and stuff all over your chest when you get shot, which is shocking. Let's just say it doesn't actually shock you, but it's surprising. So yeah, so now we've gone into the spaceship, and the cool thing about this is when you put on your suit, so we are dressed as stormtroopers. So if I look to my left or right and Preston's there, you're basically a little stormtrooper.
Yeah.
And if you put your hands out, your arms are now stormtrooper arms. The cool thing about this is like you're not wearing anything on your arms.
Yeah, you don't have to hold any controller or anything. It can sense or see your hands, and then you see your hands as stormtrooper hands, which is so cool.
Yeah, and how did you... We should say we did have some technical glitches. Listen, this is like advanced gameplay, so this doesn't work 100% of the time, which is fine, because in the first room, I actually will say, I thought this was part of a storyline. We're sitting there basically going through hyperspace, and at one point, I looked to my left, and where you had just been sitting, you were no longer there. The digital stormtrooper version of you was gone. And so this is the first room. I don't really know what's going on. And I think to myself, oh my goodness, they've kidnapped Preston. Like that was my first thought. And then all of a sudden, everything shuts down.
Yeah, everything's turned off. And the entire time while you were still working, my screen was off. So I'm like, kind of like freaking out in a little way because I can't see anything. And I raise my hand because that's what they tell you to do if there's any glitches or anything like that. And it took them probably 2 minutes to get around to me.
Oh, man. So you were hanging out for a while, just blind, essentially.
Yep.
Oh, did you ever think, oh, let me take off the helmet? Or
I did a little bit, and I like saw the walls, but I just kept raising my hand and was waiting for them.
Okay. So we essentially started over it's because it was so early in the gameplay that we just went back to the beginning and started over and got to, fly through space for a second time, which was cool. And so upon arriving, once we exit the spaceship, the Imperial base was not happy to hear about the ship's arrival, so they demanded that the ship land immediately and be ready for inspection. And this is where the hover platform comes in.
Oh my gosh. This was like probably the coolest thing for me, one of them at least, because you look down and you look to the right and there's just lava all around the floor. And you're like standing on probably like a super small platform. It was so cool.
But in real life, you're standing in a room. So it's really funny because I'm just in an empty room. Yet you look down and you're being cautious about walking on this narrow plank. And all I kept thinking to myself was, God, the people working this must have such a good laugh watching us because we must look ridiculous at this moment. But it's cool because you walk outside. It is, tons of lava everywhere. We start to feel the heat. They literally pump in heat.
Oh, yeah.
Start to smell the ash. They have the sense of ash, which was really cool, I thought. And at some point, we just start flying. Now, we're not moving at all, right? Like, we're just standing on solid ground. yet this sense of flight is like really real. And of course, you can look around in 360 degrees. You can look anywhere. And of course, there's this entire environment built that you're experiencing. And yeah, I would say it was probably one of the coolest moments, I thought.
Yeah, for me, it probably was because, I don't know, it was just super cool seeing the entire environment that they created. And you're just standing on this super small platform that you feel like is moving, and you're like kind of like shaking a little bit because you're like, I don't want to fall off. But in reality, you're standing on solid ground.
Yeah, it's fun. So essentially, the hover platform docks with the ship and takes the players to the main base. They enter a lift onto that base. They enter a corridor, which leads to a rack of blasters. Now, this is the thing that I did not do enough of in The Void, and if I were to ever do it again, I would do it more. Touch everything.
Agree 100%. Yeah.
Did you touch a lot of stuff or no?
Not as much as I wanted to, because at the time I didn't know that like you were able to feel everything, and that you could see the stormtroopers' hands touching. So I definitely did not do as much as I would have liked to, but
yeah, so of course, one of the things we definitely touched were the blasters, because once we reach them, an alarm goes off basically saying, hey, we're here, and we are informed to pick up the blasters. And you pick up blasters, essentially, and they have a trigger and everything, and you're going to be using this weapon for the rest of the experience. And so after we get the blasters, we're instructed to go back down that corridor and exit the side door. The players are then trapped inside the base. And then a bunch of stormtroopers come, the real stormtroopers, not us, and they start shooting at us. And we essentially have to kill a lot of stormtroopers in order to get to the next room.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, and there's a giant lava pit and a giant insectoid that appears, and we eventually, once you kill enough stuff, a door is unlocked and you go to the next room. And I will say you actually do travel from room to room in this. I keep saying you're in a giant room, but there are doors. So
walls and doors that you go through to get to the next area.
And doors that will stop you. If you have not accomplished something in one room, you will be stopped and have to complete it before you can move on in the game. Now this next room, we move into a corridor, and K2SO gives us a memory puzzle while the stormtroopers are shooting us. So basically, I think what we did was you were taking care of the stormtroopers, trying to kill them.
Yeah.
I was trying to do this memory puzzle, which, okay, there is definitely a glitch in this system, because it was basically, if you're familiar with the game Simon, where lights and colors light up and you have to repeat the pattern. I was doing it right. I don't know why it took like 10 times for it to work. But I'm like, I am not this stupid. Like, this thing is just not working properly. So since it wasn't working properly, it's like, all I can do at this point is guess, and hopefully it'll work. I don't even know if it eventually got it right, or if they're just like, you're taking too long. Get out of here.
It was probably the most just confusing part of the entire thing, because I remember halfway I'm like, what's happening? And I tried to do it, and I put in the right things. I'm like 99% sure, and it still said, nope, you're wrong. Try again.
Yeah. So basically we were trapped with stormtroopers shooting at us. Oh, and we didn't even mention the shots. So we mentioned it briefly, but when you get shot, you feel it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we can hear each other. We have microphones in our helmets and earpieces that basically when we're talking to each other, we can hear each other speaking. So there are definitely points where you just heard from each other.
Because when you get shot, you feel like a little jolt. It doesn't hurt, obviously, but your natural reaction is to go kind of scream a little bit or say ow. And even though you say ow, you're not actually getting hurt. It just is funny.
Yeah, it was definitely, it was a bit of a surprising experience. Especially, I got shot a lot. I don't know about you. I was shot a ton, and there were a lot of stormtroopers at that point. But in any case, we figure out the puzzle eventually, and then we run down another corridor leading to a room with weapons crates, and the pilot opens the crate and finds a lightsaber inside. And then guess what happens? We get a nice little surprise from a character that I was not expecting to see in this. Were you expecting? Darth Vader arrives.
Oh, yeah.
So where does this put this in the Star Wars storyline? I have no idea. Somewhere.
I'm so bad at that stuff.
Yeah, so it would be somewhere between episode 3 in episode 6.
Yeah.
Which I don't really know where, and I honestly don't know if they care, to be completely honest.
They probably don't.
But so Darth Vader does come. We have to essentially get rid of Darth Vader at that point. Tons of stormtroopers are still there as well, and it's kind of the climax of the experience. And he force crushes our weapons, so now our blasters are no good anymore.
Mm-hmm. And when you look down, you kind of see them torn up a little bit, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah. And then K2SO rams the Imperial transport into the side of the building, scooping up the players, that's us and the crate, and we leave the atmosphere into hyperspace, and we have survived the void.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end, you're just like, whew. Did you feel like it was a good length, or were you like, no, I definitely wanted this to be longer?
I thought it was a good length. I mean, for the money, I would say that I probably wouldn't do it again until they have a new film in it. Just because it's not cheap, but it's not overly expensive. So I don't think I'd do it again with the same film. But I thought it was a good length.
If I were to do it again with the same film, it would be probably a year's time period. Or if I had somebody visiting who was like a diehard Star Wars fan, I would probably do it again with them. But yeah, agreed that not cheap, but I think rightly priced.
Yeah.
I can't even remember. I don't think there is an annual pass member discount, is there?
There wasn't.
No.
Because you have to buy it online in advance. I mean, eventually you probably won't have to. I'm not sure if annual pass discounts will apply then, but with the website we were using to book it in advance, it wasn't a Disney website, so it wouldn't allow annual pass discounts.
Yeah, no, when it first opened, you really, really, really had to book in advance. I think the first couple of weeks were booked solid.
Especially on weekends.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, a friend of mine that came with us left our game, but right after, when we left the experience, I said, dude, you just lost $30. You should either, he literally got through none of the game. First room, he was done. I said, you should either ask for a refund or see if you can do it again, and, give it another shot. And they let him immediately try it again, which meant there was an opening. So, I definitely wouldn't suggest just walking up to it and trying it. If you want to do it, schedule it. But if you just happen to be in one of these places where it's available, I would definitely walk up and see if something's available soon or, later that afternoon or something.
I would too.
Now, what would you like to see the Void do if it wasn't Star Wars?
Oh,
You're going to say Marvel.
I'm going to say something Avengers. I feel like would be so cool. But I know what you're going to say too.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's obviously that would never happen. But I don't know if I'm trying to think. You know what would be really fun? Actually, this would be a lot of fun. Would be to do a Who Framed Roger Rabbit version.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
To live in Toontown?
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think what would each of us be? I guess just different cartoon characters.
Probably.
But that would be a lot of fun. Now, obviously, the Void is not owned by Disney, so they're just partnering with Disney for the Star Wars thing. So it really could be any major franchise out there. Actually, if I was going to be completely honest, the franchise I would really love to see happen would be Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that would be super cool. With the dinosaurs all above you, that would be cool.
That would be phenomenal. That would probably be my favorite. Oh,
yeah. The Void should invest in City Walk. If they put one there, then they could do it.
That would be really cool, actually. Let's close something on Universal City Walk and put it there. I'm all for it. I am all for it. Do you feel like this is kind of something that will be around for a while, or do you think that this is kind of just a flash in the pan?
The film or the entire Void?
Just the Void experience. Technology is advancing so quickly these days that sometimes I'm I don't know, is this just a kind of a gimmicky experience? I personally don't see virtual reality becoming as much a thing as the entertainment industry wants it to be, if that makes sense.
I would agree. Yeah.
So,
I would say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say it's probably going to last something around 7 to 10 years. I do think it's kind of a gimmick, like you said, becoming a stormtrooper, eventually I think the whole VR thing will pass, and then the void will move on.
It's kind of like the new 4D. Remember when like, well, actually you're probably too young, but when like Muppet Vision 4D opened and like all of that stuff was brand spanking new, that blew our minds. It's like, oh my God, the movie's not only in 3D, but we're feeling wind and we're feeling water. And I was actually just reading about a water park. I can't remember where it is. It's in Abu Dhabi, but I can't remember the name of the park. But it's a water park that has some sort of like in-theater experience. And while you're in there, the theater floods about a foot.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, so, you know, obviously things are needing to get more and more grand in order to impress audiences. And I think the void is very cool. I definitely, it's much more than, you know, if people are thinking to themselves, oh, I've done virtual reality in my living room with the video game system. It's much more than that.
Yeah, it's almost a completely different experience than that.
Yeah.
Because there's so many more elements.
I am curious to see how long it lasts, though. I think, first of all, I love your specificity of 7 to 10 years. Where did 7 come from?
I don't know. I was thinking over 5 years, under a decade.
Okay. 7, I would say about, I'm going to go with 8 years. So right in there with your little range there. But yeah, and I'll be curious to see, like, beyond that, what I really think will happen eventually is we'll see the technology get better in the sense that, like, the experience won't change much, but, like, maybe we won't need to wear a giant backpack. Maybe it'll be like, it's kind of like reminds me of, you know, watching TV shows from the 90s where the cell phones were massive. And now we laugh at that. I feel like we'll look back at the original Void at some point and be like, oh my goodness, you had to carry a computer on your back? Like, that's ridiculous.
Probably.
So I could see that happening. And yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts on the Void for you?
Well, I would just say that if you have the opportunity to do it, I would definitely do it if you haven't done it before. Because like you said, it's pretty different than any other, like, just VR in your living room or something like that. So, and if you're an extreme Star Wars fan, I'd say 100% definitely do it.
Oh yeah, I actually was a little bit jealous of Star Wars fans when I was experiencing this because, like I said, I am a Star Wars fan. I see every single one of the movies that's in theaters. I don't watch TV shows or read the books. But as far as the films go, I see them all and I enjoy them all. But there are obviously diehard Star Wars fans out there, and I'm like, this must be amazing for them. Like, this must be a dream come true.
Because you're in the universe of your favorite fandom.
Yeah.
It must be so cool.
You know what I think they should have done with this? I think that for now, obviously it's in numerous locations outside of Disney resorts. But for the Disney resorts, I think it would have been very, very cool if the Void, up until when Star Wars Land Galaxy's Edge opens, if the experience had been in Galaxy's Edge.
Yes, that would have been cool. Because it's also, obviously it's the VR experience, but you also put in kind of like a preview of the new land.
Exactly. It would have been like a tease of Galaxy's Edge in downtown Disney and Disney Springs, which I think would have been amazing and super smart marketing. Obviously, none of this is cheap. They would have had to create a completely different game. But then once Galaxy's Edge opens and we can actually explore that world for real, then change it to a different game. I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah, that would have been super cool.
I am a little bit curious to see if the Void is affected once Galaxy's Edge opens, because I mean, like I said, this is the ultimate experience for a Star Wars fan to live in the world of Star Wars, and that's what Galaxy's Edge is promising in a much more real way. So I'm curious to see if maybe that will affect the Void. I feel like at that point maybe they will change the game though.
Yeah. What I wonder is just like how often they switch the film out. Because I can't really tell if it lasts 3 years or it only lasts 1 year, you know?
Well, we're still in the beginning. I mean, this just opened earlier this year, so we're still in the first year. Obviously, nothing's going to change then. What I think we might see before that, I don't know how you would necessarily do this in the Star Wars universe, but if this was just like a typical attraction of sorts that wasn't necessarily IP driven, I feel like the first step we would see is we would see holiday editions. So we would see like a Halloween version and a Christmas version. And then during most of the year, it would be like their normal version.
Yeah, that would be a good idea for them.
Yeah, I can't imagine like a Star Wars Halloween. But hey, maybe we'll get Life Day. in the VR experience. You know Life Day from the Star Wars Holiday Special?
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness, if we could live in the Star Wars Holiday Special, I think they would need to pay people to experience that.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it?
I don't think so, no, but I've heard of it for sure.
Oh, it's the worst.
It is.
I have the entire thing and I've never made it through because it's so painfully bad. It's quite the test. I actually really should watch that and do an episode of DCTC on that. It's rough. But yeah, I think I eventually, if they want to stick around, they're obviously going to have to change the film. I think once they see sales start declining, they'll do it. But, none of that is a cheap thing to do. This whole world is digital. And it's crazy with these worlds because since they are 360 degrees, like, I wish it was cheap enough so that I could go in and really kind of spend time looking in every direction because there's so much you're not seeing. Which is kind of what they count on. They count on people doing that, repeat customers who want the full experience. And one thing I didn't mention was when we broke down, as we mentioned, you can touch things and there's things that exist. But when we broke down and had to return to the first room, when we took off our headsets, I could see back into that next room. And the droid that was digital that we were looking at on our computer screens was there. There was a statue of that droid. You didn't see it, did you?
I didn't see it, no.
It weirded me out because I was like, why is that guy there? That should have been a hint to me to touch stuff. But a statue version of that droid was hanging out there, which I thought was weird. There was also a point where we were walking across, I don't know if it was lava, it was something mushy, and the ground completely changed.
It was like when we were transitioning into a different room or something, and they had put a little mushy piece for the ground, so when you step in it you kind of sink into it.
Yeah. It was a cool experience. I'm a huge fan of the Void. I think it being in downtown Disney and Disney Springs is perfect. I love it.
Agreed.
Anyway, Preston, thank you so much for coming on to Disney Coast to Coast. I'm glad to have you here. And anything you want to plug, your social media or anything before we get going?
I have a Disney Instagram, and the handle is Disney Pal. And then my Twitter is the Diz Dude, the DIS. And yeah, that's not
I love how you had to clarify that as if that's the abnormal way of spelling it. So yes, go follow Preston on social media. And Preston, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
Thanks again to Preston for coming on the show to chat about The Void. But as fans of Star Wars know, we have more to celebrate this past weekend in the Star Wars universe with the opening of Solo, a Star Wars story. Whoop whoop. So I decided to invite my friend and Star Wars fanatic, Aaron Fairbanks, on the show to chat about it a bit. Welcome back to the show, Aaron.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm happy to be here.
You are very excited to talk about Solo.
I'm so excited.
A Star Wars story. So, listen, there's no format here. I have my little notes of thoughts I had on it. But before we get
They are really little. I can see them.
And
here.
don't read them because your trivia's in there.
Oh, okay. Were we supposed to bring trivia?
Yeah.
I've got one.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, let's start, though, with something that they used to advertise this, and this was a little thing shot in the parks.
Oh yeah,
with Chewbacca, and this was kind of cool. They called it, what did they call it? Solo riders or something?
Yes,
like that?
yeah,
which was cute,
yes.
Right? So they went to Disney's Hollywood Studios at Star Tours, and they basically had people.
It was like a data reader. It was an iPad, but it was looked like it was a input device, and they didn't. It seemed like they didn't give people any context other than
no. They just say, "Give us a password."
Right,
is what it seemed like.
Right,
and so people were like, "May the Force be with you," and all this stuff. And then they would say Chewbacca, and eventually some people would go, and do the thing, and that was the password. And what that meant was you were a solo rider, even though in a lot of cases there was an entire family. They weren't solo riders.
Yes, exactly.
But they would cut the entire line. Meet up with Chewbacca.
I love that they had him in the queue, so as you walk into the queue, he's just like,
yeah. Is that your Chewbacca?
No, it's not. That was I was not in the moment.
Oh, okay, cool. So they'd meet up with Chewbacca, and then Chewbacca would take them on a Star Tours. What do they call it? Flight speeder? Or did I make that up?
The Star Speeders.
Star Speeder.
Yes,
thank you.
Yeah.
And inside were a ton of aliens, which I mean, it was basically like the video you watch when they're telling you to fasten your seatbelts and stuff. But you got to like live in that experience, which was kind of cool.
It seemed like I only because I'm detail oriented like this. It looked like they only let like one family in with the aliens, and then the rest of them they just had Chewbacca in with groups of people.
Oh, really?
There was a couple where it's just like the whole thing was just was regular guests and then Chewbacca, which is really inconsiderate that they put Chewbacca up front.
I was thinking that too. If you're sitting behind Chewbacca, you're not seeing anything.
Yeah.
My guess is they let you ride more than once.
Okay.
I do think it's funny that none of the aliens or Chewbacca could wear flight goggles. So, those are made for human heads.
I love he like taps the kid next to him.
Yeah, and he's like, put them on, put them on. But on top of that, I was thinking to myself, how many times did this Chewbacca ride this ride in a row? I hope it wasn't that often, because I'll tell you, as much as I love Star Tours, multiple rides in a row, you'll get very ill. But in any case, I just wanted to mention that. I thought it was a very fun promo, and they're doing a lot more of these, I feel like, with, Mark Hamill showing up in Star Tours and Johnny Depp showing up in Pirates of the Caribbean. I think they're pretty cool marketing campaigns, and I thought that this was a fun one.
Yeah.
But let's get into Solo, a Star Wars story.
Solo!
Grab some popcorn and silence your cell phones, because it's time for the Disney movie review.
What did overall thoughts?
I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of mixed feelings about this. Like even before it came out, people were like, "Oh, there were problems with this film. It had two directors," which I will say, just watching, I didn't feel that.
I didn't either. I've talked to some people who were like, "Oh, I think I noticed," but I'm like, "Did you really notice?"
Yeah, no, I never felt that way. That I never felt like, "Oh, this is." It feels, unconnected and stuff. I do think most of it is Ron Howard's movie.
He reshot about 75 to 80% of it.
Well, then that makes sense.
And I know a lot of people who are kind of talking trash about Ron Howard. I love Ron Howard. I think he hasn't always made the strongest movies, but he knows how to go in and direct a movie.
The thing for me is he's like a safe director.
Yes.
I've never... But honestly, people are gonna get angry at this. And granted, I have not seen everything.
Are you gonna say something about Apollo 13 right now?
Never seen it.
Oh, really?
I'm not a space guy.
Oh, okay.
Space guy. I know we're talking about Star Wars, but space movies, they lose me. I'm just like, I don't care. But I'm the guy that people are like, how could you not want to go to space? I'm like, honestly, you could give me two offers. You could say, go to space or go to the bottom of the ocean and see the Titanic, and I'm going to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, but
not even seeing the Titanic.
Oh, okay.
I will just. I would so much rather explore sea life than space life.
Okay.
That's just a personal preference. But
space life, there's no life in space.
Okay. Space stuff. And so...
that we know of.
It's true. So that's where we're going to go explore.
Yeah.
E.T.'s up there somewhere. Yeah. And so in any case, I'm not a huge Ron Howard fan, but the movie of his that I probably enjoy the most, can you guess?
Willow?
No, not Willow. It is... It's Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Oh, that makes sense.
Some people hate that.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked it.
It's grown on me, I think.
He's just one of those directors that I've never seen a movie of his that I was like, wow. Now, granted, I never saw Beautiful Mind either, but that's because I just don't really like Russell Crowe. So maybe his best movies I haven't seen.
I think that's probably the case.
But I like him.
Yes.
He seems cool.
Yeah.
So in any case, so you really liked it. I think the critics are mixed as well.
Yeah, the critical reaction's been super mixed. And
by the way, let us, maybe we've gone too far already, but there will be spoilers.
Oh, I'm glad, because I'm sure... I don't know, but I'm guessing you have a couple questions about...
I do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have...
The last part of my notes is questions.
I think a lot of people have some questions about this movie. If you haven't seen the movie, turn back now.
Come back later.
Yeah, come back later.
Come back later and finish listening. Or if you don't care about spoilers, just keep listening.
Yeah.
Which I know quite a few people who really don't care about spoilers, which I find so fascinating.
So one of the things I think tipped me off that this was going to be great before I even went in to see it is the Kasdans wrote the script. So Lawrence Kasdan?
What has he done?
He wrote Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi,
I didn't know that
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Wow, all right.
Silverado.
Desperado. Different movie.
Yeah. And then his son, who's a huge Star Wars fan and grew up, which makes sense. He grew up around the franchise. Mm-hmm. So they wrote the script, and they were heavily involved in the process. which I think gave it a little bit more credence than maybe some of the other films, because because all the new films have just had new writers, they've had fresh directors, and this one felt like it had a lot of legacy. I mean, even Ron Howard, he has a huge history with Lucas.
Yeah. Now, this is the second standalone, right? The only other one is Rogue One.
Correct.
Which did you prefer, Rogue One or... Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've only seen Rogue One once. I saw it in the theater. It was not something that... I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like, oh, I got to see this one again. This one, although I don't care to see it again right now anyway, I did enjoy watching more. I think it's just because there was a character that I knew and recognized and like, know a bit of the mythos behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So you're like a diehard fan of this.
Oh yeah, and I think another part of that is there aren't as big as stakes in this one. There are stakes, but it's not Fate of the Galaxy stuff.
Okay,
which is every other Star Wars movie is like, we gotta blow up this thing or else we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
This one felt very like, it was a little bit more intimate, it was a little bit more personal.
And that's what's interesting about these standalone films, to me anyway, is like they do feel like different movies.
Yeah.
But clearly are in the same universe. Like, they're not too different to the point that it's distracting.
Right.
But they're different enough to be like, okay, it's not a Star Wars saga movie.
Yes.
And that's so weird and interesting to me that they can do that. Question, do you think Clint Howard was cast in the film before or after Ron Howard became involved?
Do you really have to ask?
I mean...
I said he even tweeted a response, or I don't even know if he was responding to anybody, but he was just like, for all you Clint Howard fans, yes, he's got a part in the movie. And I was so glad. I mean, that's something that I as a Ron Howard film lover, I love that there's always that Easter egg of like, Clint's gonna show up somewhere.
Clint Howard is the Pizza Planet truck of Ron Howard movies.
Yes, yeah.
It's really funny. If you don't know who Clint Howard is, just Google him. You will recognize him. He's in a ton of movies as a character actor. Even movies his brother doesn't direct, but if his brother directed it, he's in there. So, cool. I loved the conversation of Han versus Han, because this is such a real life conversation. So this film, I think, definitively said it's Han.
It's Han.
It's Han.
Yeah.
But Lando calls him Han.
Yes.
Is that the deal? And that happens in Empire, or?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought that was a really funny thing, just because I've had that conversation with diehard Star Wars fans, and I know somebody who insists it's Han Solo because I think it's because Lando says it.
Oh, okay.
In the film, and I'm like, oh, that's really funny that they
Han.
actually like talked about that and basically confirmed it's Han. Another thing about the name was I loved where Solo came from.
You did.
I thought this was great. I mean, it's a little cheesy and stupid.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right. So he is getting ready to...
He's joining the Imperial... major spoiler. He's getting ready to join the Imperial Army.
That was one of my questions. Like, okay, wait a second. Han Solo was a member of the Empire at one point? Was this something that was known in, like, books or anything?
This was in Legends, or what is known as Legends now. He was an Imperial officer at one time. And in the books... that is actually his origin story with Chewie, or where they met, but it was it happened differently.
We got to get to Chewie and Han.
Which is, I think, up front, that was one of the things that made this one of my favorite movies, was all the Chewie and Han moments.
Okay.
I think just seeing Chewie get especially because in the newer movies, I feel like he's really underutilized.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that. So we didn't know he was in the Empire in any of the original films, right? It was...
No.
Okay. So I thought that was interesting. As I said, the naming of him, he was basically trying to sign up for something or leave somewhere. I can't remember the details. And they're like, what's your last name? And he's like, I don't have one. I'm alone or something?
Well, they ask him, they're like, who are your people?
Who are your people?
Who are you with? And he's like, I'm with nobody. I'm by myself. And the guy goes, okay, Han Solo.
Yeah. And I was like, it's stupid, it's cheesy, but I thought it was a kind of a cool moment.
Yeah.
What else? Any other favorite moments you had in it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think that one of the moments that sticks out the most to me is when they are leaving Kessel. And they are going on the infamous Kessel Run. And you hear the you hear the asteroid music. You hear the asteroid belt music from Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Like that scene just encompasses what fun Star Wars space adventures is for me. Is just like escaping and flying the Millennium Falcon and things going wrong. And
there were a few great musical cues. Another one that I remember was when we revealed the Millennium Falcon.
Oh yeah,
and it was that
yes,
and you just get those cues. But overall, I do have a question for you, and I'm curious. This was the first time I was watching a Star Wars movie and felt like there was too much music.
Really?
Did you get to that point at any point?
I don't think so, no.
Because I've never noticed. I'm sure all of them are just chock full of music. But I was listening to the score and it was so intense and so much of it. It was like, this feels like a lot of music. And like, one thing that I know John Williams is really good at is taking music out. He'll take scenes like I'm not thinking of Star Wars at the moment. I'm thinking of Jurassic Park, where like that whole T-Rex sequence,
right?
Which I feel like most composers would look at and say, "Oh man, I'm gonna have an epic score for this epic scene." And he's like, "Nope, this is what we're gonna hear is rain in this scene," you know. And so I just feel like there were moments in this that I was like, "This feels like a lot of music, just like almost." Entirely music. I don't know. It's just something I thought of when I was in the theater. So I was curious if you felt that way. No.
I didn't. And I don't know if you knew this, but John Williams wrote the opening scene.
Oh, why?
They just asked him to, and he created Han's theme.
Oh, cool.
So the theme that is reoccurring and tied to Han Solo was written by John Williams, and then
I'd be a little bummed if I were like the composer that was coming in to do this movie and I was like, I can't write my own theme for Han. And there's like another whole cantina music thing as well.
Yes.
Which is like becoming, it's becoming a little bit of a joke, I feel like, in the Star Wars movies. Like, oh, I gotta have a cantina song. Not that they all do, but.
I'm gonna tell you one of my pet peeves, and some people agree and some don't. I really want them to stop introducing brand new aliens every time a new movie comes out.
Why? They can sell more toys that way.
Oh, no. I mean, they're not making more toys for most of the stuff. This movie actually did a really good job of kind of like bringing in some of the old aliens and using new aliens.
I'll tell you why they kind of have to do that.
Why?
Because there is no end in sight for the Star Wars universe, and they need new planets to go to. So when you introduce new aliens, that means they came from somewhere.
Well, but I mean, a lot of the aliens that have already been introduced, we haven't been to their planet, or we've only seen their planet in the animated series.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like if it was all characters we've seen before, I feel like people would have a problem with that.
Not characters, aliens, like species.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, it's just
sure.
It's a pet peeve of mine.
All right. So you did we know that Han speaks Wookiee?
I don't know if we knew that. I mean, I think it could be assumed just because he communicates so well with Chewie.
When he started like speaking Wookiee, I was like, "What? This is a skill I didn't know about. This is crazy." Overall, though, what did you think of the actor's name, Alden Ehrenreich?
Oh, I thought he did great.
Yeah, you liked him?
Oh, I did. I thought he was really, he encaptures the spirit of the character. He's not doing a riff on Harrison Ford, but he really is like selling that smug, confident, but also kind of flying by the seat of his pants mentality.
I think he very much made it his own, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Like,
no.
To me, it didn't feel like the Han Solo I know.
Okay,
but I was kind of okay with that. It was not like. Never did I have a moment where I was like, oh, that's a Harrison Ford moment right there. Like, I never had that. Maybe I would have liked that a little bit to make the character more real. Okay. But because how old is the character in this film?
So this is about 10 years before A New Hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people change quite a bit in 10 years.
So he's probably in his early 20s.
He had like a George Clooney vibe to me. Like, physically.
I get that.
And so I was like, oh, if George Clooney were Han Solo, I would totally buy into this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't buy into the fact that it was like the same character, but it didn't... I don't know. It was kind of standalone to me. How
did you feel about Donald Glover's Lando?
His speech cadence is so on point. It's one of my notes.
If you
actually.
close your eyes, like
Yes.
there's moments when you're like,
It's funny because Donald Glover is like, we're going through this phase of anything he touches is gold, and people think he's a genius. And to be fair, I don't know enough of his work to agree or disagree with that. But I mean, people love him, and this kid knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question about it. So, which is why I, on the latest House Mouse headlines, reported. Apparently, you were telling me that a quote was taken out of context. But
Right.
there was a quote going around saying that Kathleen Kennedy mentioned how Lando Calrissian was gonna probably get a standalone movie.
yeah. So it wasn't a. So the first time it went around, she was misquoted as confirming that a Lando movie was in the works, and so
Where did she say this? Was like this a newspaper?
it was
article, or-
probably probably the press circuit for Solo. But then so they went back to her, and she said it's a possibility. I don't think that it's actually in the works. I don't think they even. I mean, they have the actors signed up for a trilogy of Han Solo movies.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
At least Alden, he's confirmed that he signed a contract for 3 movies.
They probably just do that just in case it's
I think
a hit
so.
type of thing.
But I don't think this rumor really has that much credence. I think it really was just more of like, oh, like, I'm glad you guys like this character. Like, we'll see what happens down the road.
You know what standalone movie I want to see?
No.
I want the Watto backstory.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah, Annie. I love Watto. He's such a great character.
well, if you ever want more Watto, you should check out the animated series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who does the voice?
I don't. Is Watto his species? There's another example.
First of all, give me some credit there. I knew his name.
I know, that's
he
very
wasn't just like
impressive.
Bumblebee, like flying around giant character. Like,
well-
he's Watto. He's Watto with an elephant trunk.
Yeah.
No, he was fun. I really liked him.
Yeah, he is great. I ranked the movies recently, and I put Phantom Menace up a little bit higher than I expected to, because it has such a nostalgic, like, that was my first Star Wars I saw in the theaters. And,
Oh, you never saw you didn't see the special editions in '97? Because that was like my first full length Star Wars experience was the '97 special edition re-releases in theaters.
if I did, I don't remember it as well as I just remember the hype of going to see Phantom Menace, and
Yeah, it was epic. Like, it was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
It's so crazy how, like, every generation for the last 3 generations has had their Star Wars movies. It's really interesting. Let's see. Oh, one of my favorite moments, going back to Clint Howard for a second, I love the TV show BattleBots. Oh. So the fact that there was a whole droid bots sequence in this movie cracked me up.
Yeah.
It's like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If you don't know what BattleBots is, it's a bunch of nerdy guys who get together, who build robots, put them in a ring, and have them destroy each other.
have you watched any of the new series?
I've seen a couple that, like, when I say I love it, it's not like it's something
No,
I watch
it's
regularly.
just fun.
But I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And the creations these guys come up with to destroy these robots that they spend so much time building. So I just thought it was funny. There were droid bots, but there was a whole droid thing in this movie about, like, equal rights.
Yeah.
That was kind of a little bit heavy hit over the head type of thing. It was like they were pounding on this commentary.
Oh, you think so?
I thought so. Yeah.
Oh,
So I don't know. It was a little weird to me. This was it Han?
L3.
It was Lando's sidekick, right?
His co-pilot.
His co-pilot.
Yes, not a sidekick.
Sorry.
I mean, come on.
Lando's co-pilot.
You just got done saying equal rights, not a sidekick.
I don't think droids deserve equal rights.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
no, he didn't. Just
Whoa.
kidding. But so this was interesting. Major spoiler. By the end of this, L3, you said?
Yeah.
L3 is dead essentially, but like her brain is.
She's not dead.
Her brain is put into the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
Is this something that is referred to ever in the original films? Because it felt like they were setting up.
There is a moment in Empire Strikes Back when the Falcon is like not functioning and 3PO is interfacing with it.
Okay.
And he says to Han, he says something like, your ship's computer has a weird dialect. So it's just like a throwaway line in the original trilogy, but when you think about it in the context of like, oh, this is there's a droid's brain essentially in the ship. And another cool Easter egg is that she's a combination of droids. So one of the things that makes her special and unique is that she was an astromech droid, which is what R2D2 is.
You're a real nerd.
I am a real nerd. And you can see parts of her body are parts of what R2D2 is made up of.
Okay.
And so now I'm going to go real nerd on you.
Let's hear
it. Probably like 15 or 20 years ago, they put out these blueprint books that were essentially like manuals for the Millennium Falcon and TIE Fighters and X-Wings. And in the Millennium Falcon one, it said there were these 3 different kinds of droid brains that were part of the Millennium Falcon, which made it so special.
Okay.
And she is essentially those 3 kinds of droids. So they did like some deep dive nerd references.
Dude, the people in charge at Lucas whose like job it is, and I believe there's a whole department whose job it is to make sure the story group, there we go. I marvel at what they do and appreciate what they do, but can't believe the lengths at which they go. I honestly wish Disney would do it like with their parks and stuff. I wish there was like a story group for Disney parks. That'd be great. Let's get on top of that.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
love that. That's funny. Yes.
Easter egg that I don't know if you caught.
Probably not.
Did you get the Back to the Future 3 reference?
No.
No?
Back to the Future. So the Western. No, what?
Well, it's
and why was it in there?
It's in the present portion of Back to the Future 3.
Okay.
And it's in there because Lawrence Kasdan's son, is a huge nerd.
Okay.
And when they're in the Cussel Run and they're like escaping the TIE Fighters, and Han turns to Chewie and he's like, "All right, we're gonna put the landing gear down. This is something I picked up from my friend Needles. He only tried it once, but he crashed and died."
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, so and I picked it up and I asked Amy afterwards. I was like, "Was that a Back to the Future reference?"
That's amazing.
And I think just yesterday or the day before, John Kasdan went on Twitter and was like, "That is 100% a Back to the Future 3 reference." I was like, "Yes,
that's awesome. I love that."
Yeah.
Now, one question that this movie really answered for me, is how close are Chewie and Han Solo?
Right.
And all I gotta say is a bro ain't a bro until you've taken a shower together. And
wait, really? You couldn't have waited until I was done? We couldn't have done this one at a time.
Couldn't have done this one at a time. Yeah, so it's like, dude, these two are bros, man.
Yeah. You asked what my favorite moment was, and
the shower between Chewie.
There's too many moments, but pretty much every moment with Han and Chewie. I love the character of Chewbacca, and that was really, I think, my takeaway was like, I could watch Han and Chewie interact together.
Let's get them a sitcom.
Yeah, that would be great.
Now, speaking of, showers together, and we're speaking of droids earlier, what was with the conversation of Lando and L3 talking about some real intimacy between a human and a droid?
Well, no, it wasn't Lando, it was Kira. Yeah, and a lot of people have actually taken issue with this because the one moment in the
Wait a second, was a girl in the droid talking?
Yes, yeah.
No, I feel like there was something with Lando in L3 as well.
Well, so they're talking about...
Oh, or was it about being with Lando?
Yeah,
okay.
So, and a lot of people have spoken up about how the one moment between the 2 female characters is them talking about their love interest.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's...
People need to calm down.
Yeah, because she starts out, she's just asking, like, what's going on with Han, and and then L3 reveals, like, Lando's totally into me.
Yeah.
It's like, but it would never, we're not compatible.
Right. And the girl goes, how does that work or something? Or,
it works.
It works, right. And so I was like, did that just happen? Yeah. Did I just understand this? Yeah. All right. That's an interesting little thing to throw in there.
Yeah.
I do have a couple questions for you. Did we know how he had won the Falcon? I know that we knew he won it from Lando.
Right.
Like, that's revealed in Empire, I believe, right? But did we know how it actually happened?
I think, we did know it was a game of sabacc, and I thought that was great because in the first time you meet Lando and he's playing sabacc, I think you have that expectation. I mean, Star Wars fans who know the backstory, I think they had that expectation of like, oh, this is where he's going to win the Falcon. And then when he didn't, you're like, oh, that was I'm glad they didn't like hit that. I'm glad they didn't go directly for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end and I love that he's like, at that point, he knows Lando well enough to be like, like I'm onto your game, sir. Yeah, I love that. I love that he got the Falcon. And such a great way to end the movie.
Now, one of my favorite moments, but caused tons of confusion for me, was the reveal of Darth Maul.
What?
I was like,
wait, Darth Maul's in this movie?
I was like, hubba what? I couldn't believe. I was like, whoa. So, but in that moment, I immediately said to myself, I was like, okay, wait a sec. So Darth Maul's here. I'm like, so when in the timeline is this? Because Darth Maul ends at the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
But then somebody has told me, no, he doesn't.
Yes.
That's a little annoying to me.
Right.
So I get that there are Star Wars stories in books and TV shows and stuff aside from the movies, but I do feel like if you're going to have something in the movie, if it's like a major plot point, it should be explained in one of the movies. And I had no idea that Darth Maul survived being chopped in half.
I think part of the reason that they did it is because it's not a major plot point. It's more of a...
To me, it felt like it was leading to something for the future.
It could. I don't know that that's a thread that they're going to pull on soon.
Was it the same actor?
It was.
Okay.
It was Ray Park, and he was voiced by Sam Witwer.
When you said Ray Park, my head went Trey Parker, and all I thought was South Park. Sorry.
Yeah, which is funny because he's been like showing up at people's screenings, and I'm like, dude, I think that might get like a little spoilery. That people are like, why is the guy who played Maul at?
I would never know, but Star Wars people would, of course.
I think this was this is a huge thing for people who watch the Clone Wars and watch Star Wars Rebels, because for the longest time, Clone Wars was all the Star Wars that people were getting.
Yeah, the animated series. Yeah,
Revenge of the Sith was over. There was no plans to make more Star Wars movies, and so the Clone Wars, which originally aired on Cartoon Network, that was what George Lucas was putting all of his efforts into, and I don't know if people know that he was very involved in crafting the story for the Clone Wars, and so that's why that is one of the only things pre-Disney that's remained canon.
Yeah,
is because he was so heavily involved. And so just a brief, like just to fill you in, you find out that he survived
being chopped in half. All right, I guess the lightsaber soldered his gut shut so that he didn't bleed out, perhaps.
Yes. I think also it's implied that he's so strong with the dark side, and in that moment he hates Obi-Wan so much that hatred and the dark, like the power of the dark side allows him to keep on living. But when you find him, he's gone completely crazy. He's like living in a garbage dump.
Oh wow! All right.
Literal garbage dump on a whole planet that's a garbage dump. And this is totally going to confuse you. His brother comes and finds him.
All right. Does his brother look like him?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. And
this is all revealed in Clone Wars.
This is all revealed in Clone Wars.
Okay.
He gets mechanical legs, powered by the Force, powered by the dark side.
Okay.
And he goes after Kenobi. He's like hardcore trying to find Obi-Wan Kenobi and kill him. And on this quest to destroy Obi-Wan, he's no longer a Sith because the Siths only come in two. There's a master and an apprentice.
Okay.
So he's no longer a Sith. So he kind of goes this other route of creating what is called the Shadow Collective, which is all these criminal organizations, the Hutts and the Pike, and he pulls together all these crime lords and basically makes a huge crime syndicate. And
do they take showers together?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
dark, really dark.
So they're
dark showers.
So they're bros then.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, cool.
And he amasses all this power. He kind of loses a little bit of that power, but you know that he's had experience in the criminal underworld, and so it really made sense for him to be a crime lord, essentially. And he's on Dathomir. That's his home planet. And when we pick up 9 years later in Star Wars Rebels, he's no longer has all this power, but he goes back to Dathomir, and you see that there's this. It's all connected, and for fans of the animated series, I feel like this was just like a huge like. My mouth was agape for the whole scene.
So you didn't know going in?
Oh, okay. No. And that was like one of the biggest secrets. I mean, they did a great job of not.
Was he at the premiere?
He was, yeah.
So what did people think anything?
No, I mean, it's like, because he's been to other Star Wars events, and he usually goes to Star Wars Celebration.
Is he an actor or an acrobat?
No, he was a martial artist.
And a martial artist,
Yeah. And that's what I think this was probably his first. I think Phantom Menace was his first movie. Okay. And I don't know if he actually acted in this or if it was just, I think it was just a mocap performance.
Okay.
But yeah, it was, and then when he holds his hand out and his lightsaber comes to him and he turns it on, it was just, oh.
You talk Star Wars the way I talk Walt.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was so exciting. Right.
Yeah. No, it's funny to me. I have one other question in my notes.
Yeah.
Before we get to whatever else you want to say, but so Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah.
Plays Han Solo. We know that Disney is going to be making Indiana Jones movies.
Right.
After the 5th one with Harrison Ford.
Right.
Do you think Alden could and should play Indiana Jones?
I think he definitely could. I think he's got the acting chops for it, despite the rumors that he needed heavy acting.
Is that
coaching.
Rumors?
Well, they said they brought in an acting coach for him. But to me that didn't sound that absurd. I feel like especially when you're portraying another actor and you're portraying a role like Han Solo, it makes perfect sense that an acting coach would come in and be like, oh, like maybe your mannerisms would be just helping with mannerisms and dialect.
You know who I would have loved to see in this part? And I say this all the time. But God, he's so good. I would have loved to have seen Chris Pratt play Han Solo.
No.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, he's way too old.
How old is Alden?
Oh, he's in his early 20s.
He looks old.
You think so?
Holy crap, he's in his early 20s?
Yeah, maybe like 25. 26.
I would guess at least 30.
Oh, he looks much younger than Chris Pratt does.
You think so?
Yeah.
A little CG on those wrinkles, we're all good.
No, and not only that, but it's not really Chris Pratt's kind of smarm. The character is not that I don't know.
Okay, so you think Alden could do Indy?
I think he could.
You'd be good with that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think that's what I got in my notes. Anything else you want to add about this film?
No, I felt like this was the most layered of all of the new films, especially because of the writers and their knowledge of the universe, and I think they did a lot better job of connecting threads than some of the previous new movies have done.
I have one mission based on this episode of Disney Coast to Coast. We need to get you a job on the Lucasfilm Star Wars story department.
Oh my gosh, I'm not knowledgeable enough for that.
You will learn.
No, I've met
my young Padawan. They will teach you.
I've met a couple of the story group people, and they have
that's a job you have to love.
They have the deepest knowledge. Oh, I'm sure
you have to love that job to do it, because otherwise I'd go crazy.
Oh,
I would be like, no.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Oh, but I mean, it's so.
If it were a Disney story, like if there were certain characters in the Disney, or like I said, a Parks, I'd love it. I'm just saying, like, you have to love Star Wars to have that job and do it for a decade or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
I'm so appreciative of the fact that they made a point of putting together that group of people to make sure the continuity of these films is 99% rock solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we get going into trivia time, I do want to talk to you about something else, because you mentioned you wanted to talk about this on the show.
Oh my gosh, I had to.
So I said, sure, I haven't talked about it yet on the show at all, so let's discuss the Christopher Robin trailer that was recently released.
Jeff, I'm going to give you a warning.
You're already tearing up.
I might start crying.
You're already tearing up.
After I saw the trailer, I called my mom, And I called her and I was like, "Oh my, you got to see this trailer!" Like because I feel like a big part of my love for Pooh is because of my mom and my grandpa, and I said, "You got to watch this trailer." And I just gave her kind of like a brief synopsis, and I started crying, like explaining what the movie was about. And I was like, I can't believe I'm so emotional about this.
I didn't cry, but this is now, we had a teaser trailer. This is now a full-length trailer.
Yeah.
The teaser trailer was shocking to me because it's so weird. Like, Christopher Robin in this movie was something that came out of nowhere.
I don't think they even went into physical production until like last June.
It's the weirdest thing. It just seemed to come, like we had heard about it, but saw nothing from it.
Right.
And so I was like, first of all, wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did in this teaser trailer. So that was shocking and amazing to me. This newer trailer, I was not as like overwhelmed by it because I we'd seen a bit of it already. I'm like, okay, this is what they're going for. So I didn't have the same reaction as you. I think it looks great though. I'm very excited for it.
Ewan McGregor was a perfect casting decision for that.
Yeah, now I know that this was interesting because the first, I'd say 2/3 of the trailer, you only hear, as far as the characters' voices are concerned, you only hear Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore.
Right.
And I thought that this was interesting because I know that Jim Cummings, who has been Winnie the Pooh for like our generation, I know that he normally also voices Tigger, but in the case of this movie, it's a different voice actor.
No.
It isn't.
No.
What?
I just found this out yesterday, and I don't know why they didn't release the press statement before the trailer came out. Chris O'Dowd failed the screen tests.
Okay, this makes so much more sense.
They brought Jim back to do Tigger, which because I saw the trailer and was like, wow, that's a spot on.
That's
Tigger.
what I was thinking. I was like, oh, that sounds like Tigger.
That's because it was.
Okay, so that's very interesting to me because, as I said, in the first 2/3, all you heard was Eeyore, which was Brad Garrett, I believe, which has been our Eeyore for over a decade now, I believe, and. Also, Jim Cummings, as I mentioned. And so with the others, I was like, oh, they're not going to let us hear them because I think it's going to be very jarring.
Right.
But we eventually did at like the last moments of the trailer. We heard all the characters, and I think they all sound like themselves.
And we don't hear all of them.
We heard Piglet, we heard Tigger, I don't think we heard Rabbit.
Right.
But we heard more than
Piglet, I'm not sold on.
Piglet's a tough voice.
Because the Piglet is like, that was my favorite character when I was little. So I'm a little like, okay, we'll see how you do. Okay.
That is very interesting about Tigger, though.
Oh, it's funny because when they cast someone else as Tigger, I was like, that's a big risk because Tigger's a fan favorite.
Yeah.
So if you don't nail Tigger, so when I heard it, I was like, oh, he did it good, and then like. Some internet research, I found out like, oh yeah, he did
fired.
Not make the grade.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say about the trailer?
Oh my gosh, I think it's just going to be a beautiful, like, really feel good movie, and it's. I love the idea of, because I'm pretty sure what we see at the beginning, because it's Christopher Robin and they're having a farewell party for him. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's young Christopher Robin. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it picks up from the end of House on Pooh Corner, because at the end of the book, that's what happens is Christopher Robin's getting older, and Pooh's like, don't forget me. And Christopher Robin's like, oh, I could never forget you. And the book is literally like Pooh realizing like, oh, you are forgetting me, and you're not going to be my friend forever. And so I'm glad that this movie kind of gives resolution to that of like, the other thing,
that's just a book?
It's just the book, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, could you imagine them making a Disney animated movie of like...
I would kind of love it.
Bye, Pooh. I'm not going to see you anymore.
Oh, bother.
Yeah. I love... They just wrote Pooh... From what I've seen in the trailer, they wrote Pooh perfectly, where... his lines are just so Pooh Bear and
comforting.
And
well, the Winnie the Pooh story team was on it. So.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments though is not a sad moment, but a silly moment when. Also, I just love that that Christopher Robin, adult Christopher Robin. He just kind of goes with it. It's not, he's not denying like, oh, I must be crazy, like, and then trying to avoid Pooh. He's like, all right, Pooh, like, I'll come. Yeah, you're right. I'll come help you find your friends. And then when he climbs into the tree and he's like, I'm stuck. And Pooh's like, did you have some honey?
Yeah.
He's like, no, Pooh, I did not have some honey.
I loved the line. I think it's Christopher Robin who says to Pooh, he goes, well, that's a silly explanation. And Winnie the Pooh goes, why, thank you. Yeah. I thought that was great. And the other line that Winnie the Pooh says that I think is brilliant was, people say nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day. I was like, what?
I know.
That's great. It's going to be a great movie. I'm excited about it. August 3rd, I believe?
Yeah.
August 3rd that hits theaters.
Oh my gosh.
In any case, guys, that's what we got for Solo. And did you want to say something
I was
else?
just going to say, Jeff, if you want to see me cry for 2 hours, then we should go see
I mean, that's not something on my bucket list personally. But in any case, guys, I think that means it's trivia time. All right, Aaron, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
You hit me.
Okay. I've actually got two, but you kind of answered one of them already, so
Okay.
I'm going to read it anyway. We can answer it, and then I'll give you the real trivia question. But so Warwick Davis is actually seen in Solo, a Star Wars story. If you don't know, Warwick Davis became part of the Star Wars universe when he was a kid playing, what was the name of the Ewok? Wicket, okay. Wicket the Ewok, the very...
He's the lead
Ewok in Return of the Jedi. So, my original question for you was, what other film was Warwick Davis in that Ron Howard directed?
He's in Willow. But I've got a little piece of trivia about that.
Okay.
Warwick Davis appears in Phantom Menace.
That was my second trivia question.
Oh, was it really?
Yes.
Nailed it.
I was like, in what other Star Wars movie can you see Warwick Davis?
Well, not only see, he is the same character.
What do you mean? Oh, as in Solo?
The character that you see in Phantom Menace, his name's Weasel, and he plays the same character
in Solo. Cool. I didn't know that, but that was my second trivia question. So there
Nailed
we go.
it.
Yeah, so if you don't remember in Phantom Menace during the race, what kind of race? The pod race.
Yeah, the pod race.
They cut to basically a crowd shot, and you see Warwick Davis there.
He's next to your favorite.
He's kind of an Easter egg.
He's next to Watto.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Hey, Warwick. Yeah. Cool.
I was glad though he had a little bit of a speaking role in this.
Yes. Well, it was actually funny because I was watching. I was like, did he get paid for a speaking part in this? Because like most of it you don't see him. And then right at the end he has like a line.
No,
I was like, okay, he's getting his residuals.
When he's the one who's tracking them when they're at the first Sabbac game.
Oh, okay.
He's the one who he's in full armor, but you can tell it's him and it's his voice when he says like, oh, I put a tracker on there.
That's
on
crazy.
The ship.
Well, that's crazy. Well, anyways, you knew both of my trivia questions before
I didn't even have to ask.
I could ask them. So, what is your trivia question for me?
My trivia question is: so the Hans dice have become a big commodity in the new movies. Not just this movie, but Last Jedi. They played a little bit of a part.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Last Jedi, the dice? No, not
really.
So these are the dice that he hangs from his Millennium Falcon mirror, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't remember them in Jedi.
In Last Jedi,
in Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi.
I was thinking Return of the Jedi, sorry.
Yeah. When Luke sees Leia for the first time, he hands her the dice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually, when he goes on board the Millennium Falcon,
Falcon.
When he goes on board the Millennium Falcon, when Rey's on the island, when he goes into the cockpit, he examines them.
Story department, man.
Exactly, but
that wasn't the trivia question.
Do you know? You didn't ask a question. Do you know where the dice originated?
In the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Does it have something to do with that game that they play with the holograms?
In the movies. Like, do you know what, like, where
where we first see those dice. When's the first time we've seen the Millennium Falcon? It would be the original Star Wars New Hope. Are they hanging from the mirror in that?
That's
I would assume.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But it's like a minor...
Yeah.
And at that point, it was just gold spray painted...
Yeah, dice.
It was just regular dice.
No, I assumed when they were featuring... They featured it a lot in this movie. Kind of more than I felt was necessary, but I definitely was like, yeah, I feel like this is something that must be an Easter egg from the original film. So, yeah, I got it right.
Yeah.
Woo! Fantastic.
There was one weird shot near the beginning where the focus of the camera is literally just the dice, and he goes and grabs them, and the focus just continues to be on the like rear view mirror. I was just like, that was a weird. Like, yeah, the dice are important, but they don't need their own.
Overall, Solo, a Star Wars story, I say very enjoyable. You say fantastic.
Yeah, I loved it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on the show to discuss Solo. There we go. Solo, a Star Wars story.
Thanks for having me.
And before we get going, I want to remind all of you to head over to DisneyCoastToCoast.com to find all of our social media links so that you can connect with us every single day of the week and not just on Wednesdays and Sundays. And of course, be sure to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes. That helps other Disney fans find the show more easily, and it's very much appreciated by us. And every single day over on Instagram Live, I play the Daily Disney Decision, and I would love for you to be part of it. All you got to do is follow DIZNEYCTC on Instagram and set up your phone to get those push notifications whenever Disney Coast to Coast goes live. If you're not sure how to do that, just head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com, click on the DDD tab there, because I would love to see you as part of the Daily Disney Decision. It's a little piece of Disney Coast to Coast each and every day. Until then, have a magical day, everybody. Bye!
Thanks for watching Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePaoli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.